All right, and welcome back. So in this lesson, we are going to look at object. We created this class from the previous lecture. So please, if you don't have this, you can go back to the previous one and to have this code. Okay. Now, again, let me say this we are doing is a series of a series of lectures. So if this is what you came to meet, you can try and then going back to at least understand the whole thing we are doing. Okay, because it's step by step, and if you jump any of the step, it's going to bring some kind of confusion somewhere. So you can consider going up and then checking the other videos. Now we have fruit class created, having attribute, and also let me put a comment here. We call this one methods. Okay, methods, that's simply some functions. Okay, the abilities of the class, the functions, and we call it method. This one mostly you see people call it attribute, and this is what method. Okay, now we are done with the class. Like we said, class is simply what? The template. Okay, class are template. So let me just scroll back to that side. Class, they are simply what? Template for creating object. I think I'm failing to see what I want to show. Okay, I'm failing to see what I want to show. So class, that's simply the template or the structure for creating object. So we are done with the template. We are done with the structure. Okay, I can collapse it and you can see this is up there, and then our int main. Now when you want to create an object, creating your object should always be in the int main. That is the best place to create objects. You don't create objects anywhere. The int main is like the entry point to your application. So when you execute your program, it is the entry point, being this one. That is what the compiler is going to look at, is going to call, and then is going to execute. So without this one, your program will not be alive. Okay, so creating an object we have to do it in the int main. You don't create object within the class. As for the class, it's a template. When you finish, you leave it. Then you come to the int main. So creating an object in C++, to create an object, this is how it can be done. We know if you want to create a variable, what we do is we start with a data type. So int age is equal to what? Then the value will come 25. Okay, now this is how we create variable. To create an object, we also use the same approach. Now the question is, this new object that we are coming to create, which class is it coming from? What is the class created or the class we want to use? In this case, is what? The fruit class. So we will start with our data type, but this time around the data type will be what? Will be a fruit. That is the data type for the object. It will be the name of the class. When you create a class, it acts like a user defined type. It's one of the data types too, but that one you have defined that. So we call it user defined type. So the fruit class we have here. Okay, this is the data type. Then we move on to the next one. That is what we call the identifier. So with the identifier, it's simply the name you want to give to the object. Okay, the name you want to give to your object. Let me just show you. I'm failing to get what I had the intro. Not this one. So there was classes and then object. Okay, all right, so this is what we are going to look at. Now the class is fruit, and then some object created was apple, banana, and then mango. Now creating an object, right after the class name, you give it a name, an identifier, any name you want to call it. So this first object that I want to create, the name I want to give it will be apple. Okay, apple is equal to, then is equal to the value. But in a class, you can't put a value of 25. If you put a value of 25, the compiler will think that this is having a data type of int, and int can store 25, but a type of fruit cannot be able to store 25 being integer. And if you make it maybe 13.5, this one too is never going to work, because 13.5 is supposed to be for double. If you add the F, then it will be a float. We can't also do it like this, because this is what? A string, and string will demand it will require that this side will change to string before it work. Now, to create an object, you don't equate it to any normal value, but what you do is you call the name of the class again, and then you add the round bracket like this. So you call the name of the class again, and then you add the round bracket. This is how the object can be created. So your data type, the identifier, the name you want to call it, you add an equal to sign, and then the name of the class again. Now the good news here is, if you go to other language, the same approach is there, only few changes, the same is there. So we have created an object 1. Okay, now this object that we have created, look at something here. If you go to the class is having some structure, the name, the color, and then texture. Okay, that is the attribute or the property the class is having. All the object will also have the same thing, because they come from the same structure. Like I said, a building plan having 3 windows on it, the actual houses that will be built will also have the same number of windows. So apple dot. Now watch this. I call the name of my object, which is apple, and then if I use the dot notation, what do you see here? Color, for, name, and then texture. These are all the attributes and then methods we have defined in a class. So you can see on the object created, these are all available. Do you see why? Do you know why we have round bracket around the for? Because the for is the ability, is the function or the method. Okay, so for methods, you can see like how we have it here. It's also having the round bracket. So whenever you see anything having the round bracket, it means that thing is it's a method or function, and then the normal ones are simply attribute, and these are their data types. Okay, so for this first fruit, I want to give it a name. Call it let me name this one big apple. That's the name I want to give to it. And then again, let's give it the texture. So texture is equal to smooth. Again, apple dot. The other one is I think color. Apple, sometimes it can be, the color can be wine. I don't know when it's ripe, I don't know, but yeah, like this. So this is where we created the object, and then this is where we define the object. We are saying that, okay, it's like giving birth to a child. Later on, you need to give the child a name, a school, and then some other information. So we brought the object at this line. This is where we brought the object, and then down here is where we actually give some uniqueness or some definition to the object. We are saying that the name of the object is this, the texture, and then the color. Now let me build and run the program. So when I build and run, everything is working smoothly. Look at something here. You know for sure that the attributes are 3, and what we have defined here is also 3. I'll do something. Apple dot age equals 15. Now check this. Do you see age as part of the attribute here? No, but we are trying to add something that is not in a structure. If we run this program, you can see the compiler has started complaining that we have a foreign structure, foreign attribute. This is not part of the parent. This is not coming from the parent. It's unknown, and so as a matter of fact, our program will not execute. So always you need to understand that. That's why they say we say class makes our code structured. It gives a structured style to our code. So there's no way the attribute can have something the parent, something the structure it's not having. So we clear it, and then after building, everything is smooth. Okay, so let me just give a comment here. Giving definition, my spellings of definition I think is bad. giving definition to the newly created object. So we've defined, we've given them identity. And watch this, the fact that the identity or the identifier of the object, I make it Apple, doesn't mean automatically it's going to have a name called Apple. Okay, you have this one is just an identifier, something you see to identify in the code, but it will not really reflect in the object's attribute. Okay, so the name is what will actually give it the name, but this one is just for us the programmers to know that the first one is the Apple. Okay, now let me also add another comment. Assessing the attribute on the object. So one object is created. Okay, that is number one. And then after the object is created, always you need to give some kind of definition to the object so that we know that this object you've created, the name is this, the texture is this, and then the color is this. Now, how do we assess this attribute on the object? So let me just use cout name and then apple.name. Again, I'll do the same for the texture. And then the color, right? Apple.color. Let me just remove this one so it looks good. Okay. Now assessing, let me run the program now. So you can see the name is Big Apple, the texture, and then the wine, the color being wine. Okay. So all what we have here is one object we have created. And you can see that even though we did a whole lot of things here, but all that we did was wired to or was connected to the Apple object. So the first object. And let me say this so that let me clear the air. This that we have, sometimes you see people do it this way: fruit, apple, just like that. Okay, you can just leave it like this and it's also going to work. So even if I delete this and then I run the program, it's all the same, it will work. But I think both are true, but rely on this one. You can use this one. Any of them is correct, but just go by this. This is also okay, because if you get familiar with what we have here, later when we look at parameterized constructors, there's not going to be any kind of confusion. Okay, so in case maybe you are with other one, you can try and then adapt it to this also. It's also fine. Okay, so everything from 1 to 3 is one object we have created. Let me create one last object and then we will close this lecture. So let me say creating another object. So how do you do that? First of all, the class we want to create the object from will come. That will be the fruit class. And then following it will be the name we want to give this one. First one is apple. Let me call it banana. Is equal to the fruit again, like this. So one object is created. Okay, quickly let me do some kind of copy and paste. I hope you know already that copy and paste is not good. So even though I'm copying and then pasting, but for you, try and then type everything from top to bottom. That is how it will help you to master this that we are doing. The more you type, the more you get them. Okay, all right. So fruit, banana is created, and then you can see down here. Let me add a line in between. So this is the fruit, and then over here we are assessing the information about the fruit object. If you see up here, throughout is what? Apple, 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 apple. So it means we are dealing with the apple. And then down here you can see banana, banana. So banana.name will not give you Big Apple. You get it? It will give you the name you have defined for banana. Now let me run the program and see. So the first one is for the apple. These are the name and the information. But check the last one, the new object we've created. That object though is created, but it doesn't have any name. It doesn't have any texture and also what? Any color. Okay. And the question is, how do we make sure we give them? We can do that by easily what? Doing what we have here. So quickly pause the video, do that yourself, and then execute the program, and let's see what will happen. When you finish, you can continue with the video. All right, but I'm assuming you are done, so let me just go ahead and then do that. So banana.name, you can see the moment I press the dot, I get a list. Now sometimes using the code blocks, there are some instances you are not going to get the auto completion or the list. The only thing is understand and then know what you are doing. Sometimes you will fail, but even if it fails, go by the correct structure, it will still work. Okay, you don't need to get the auto completion before it works. Banana.texture, I think banana to the texture is not bad, it's also smooth. Okay, all right, that is it. So for the function, we will look at it later on. Now if I run the program, you see now the first object is having what? Its information. The second one is now having its information. So both of them are now having their information. Okay, and so banana, the name is banana, smooth yellow, they are all coming from what we have defined here. So each time you create your object, okay, you need to step down and then give values to your object. And you can see that at the end of the day, it's just one class we have. Okay, but all the children or all the objects that will come from the class will have their own uniqueness. So like what we are saying, if I run the program, you can clearly see that we have the first one and then the second one. They are all fruit. They have name, they have texture attribute, and then they have the color attribute. But then the truth of the matter is the values is not the same. It can be the same somewhere, but it's unique to them. Okay, it's unique to them. So if we were to go by the old style of programming, we have to do copy and paste repetition, right? But now with classes, we have our class being the template somewhere, and then our objects can be created in so many places. Even we can go to a different file and then create the attributes there, and create the object there, and it's still going to work. Okay, so that is it about object and how we can access them. Now to conclude this, always when you create your class, you create it above the int main, and then make sure the ending semicolon will come. Sometimes you can get an error, but in case you have an error, most of them will be that you have missed the closing curly bracket. So when you click on the class, the starting curly bracket, you're supposed to expect the ending somewhere here. Okay, ending, so that I show that all of them are within it. And then to create an object, you do it in the int main. So you create your object, you give values to your object, and then you access them this way. Okay, I think I have to do one last thing, so watch this. Let me end the line to show you. Now if I come down here, see out name, we don't do this. If you call the name thinking you want it to be banana, this one will not work. Name, you've not said anything. You have to call the name of the object before, the identifier of the object. So if I say banana.name, there's no way banana.name will give you big apple, because the big apple was given to what? Apple itself. And then the banana.name, the definition we gave was banana. So there's no way you can call an attribute on one object and the value given will be from a different object. It never works. Okay, it never works. So banana.name will always give you banana, and then like that. So the values will comes from the object's own and the attributes on the object. Their values is what will come out when you call it. Okay, all right. So please, if you have not subscribed to our channel, consider subscribing, like, and also share the videos. This is where I want to end this, and then we'll continue the next lecture. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. Bye.